Hello, everyone. This is Emilie Baltz. You see me here behind a gold-veiled Star Trek finger looking like David Bowie. Definitely my outfit for everyday life. Now, before we get started, I would invite you to grab a drink, something with just a little bit of flavor to it. If you have water, squeeze some lemon in it, some coffee, soda, wine, depending on what time zone you're in, beer, alcohol, all of those. Cautious drinking, please. Thank you. That is my public service announcement for today. And once you have that, just come back, sit down, and we should all have something to drink. And I'll also ask you to do a little bit something special with it. So keep it on hand through this presentation and don't finish it yet. Enough said. My name is Emilie Baltz, as I said, and I work as an experienced designer and a new media artist. And today I want to talk to you about an intersection that inspires much of my work, the intersection of art and science, but the soft side of that, specifically the sensory sciences and how the sensory sciences work together to craft perception, meaning, and delight in our world. Now, practically speaking, I work as a creative across art and industry, collaborating both with brands and culture to create things like immersive dining events, interactive installations, cookbooks, workshops, all that have as a goal to change our perception of everyday things and experiences. Now, personally, how I approach this is by engaging the human senses in novel ways to construct new and different meanings of our expected behaviors, rituals, flavors, products. As you saw there and as you see here, a material that often shows up in my work is food and drink. And I love to use those mediums as vehicles for storytelling because of their multi-sensory properties. Now, what you can probably tell, see, and maybe even feel from this image is that food and drink are so much more than taste. They really are, for me, full immersive experiences where all the five senses work together to create what we perceive as flavor. Now, I'd like to invite you to do a short experiment with me to just do proof of concept of this. It's something that you probably all should have on you, in front of you. Now, if you could grab that beverage, your nose, and something to pinch it with. If anyone really wants to use a clothespin, go for it. You could also use your two fingers. Now, I'll walk you through this exercise. You'll pick up your glass. Hopefully you've got something tastier than me. Take your two fingers, and then I'll ask you to pinch your nose quite firmly. And then take a sip with your nose pinched and release it while you still have some liquid in your mouth. Aha! Oh, kind of a delightful, surprising experience, right? What I hope you noticed is that without our sense of smell, we have no experience of flavor. And that, for me, proves this idea that our perception is actually a confluence of multiple parts of us, multiple pieces of our human technology working together to tell us a story about what is in our glass, what is on our plate, and maybe perhaps even what is in our lives. Now, I originally trained in modern dance and screenwriting, and it's an unlikely combination, but something that I often attribute to the work that I do today, because this taught me how to tell stories in multiple dimensions, in pictures, in words, in motion, in light, but also the important role that our bodies play in storytelling. And this embodied approach is something that is so accessible by so many of us because the foundation of it is the toolkit of the five senses. Now, we enter the world through our senses. How we see, feel, smell, hear, touch, taste. This orchestration is the basis for how we experience our lives. It obviously affected our short taste experiment there. what else does it affect in our daily lives, in our human relationships? And the interesting thing I've found over the years is that as we start to change our relationship to our senses, we actually are able to discover new realities by changing our relationship to the world around us. And therein, we have the ability to confront things like our assumptions, our expectations, our perception. Now, never has this concept, I think, been more relevant than today, as an unprecedented global pandemic has radically changed the way that we experience our daily lives. And I don't know about you, but I find myself aching for the new as well as the nostalgic, for the novel, as our lives become more and more limited, more and more sedentary. And interestingly enough, recent developments in neuroscience prove that new sensory experience, something familiar experienced in a new way, has the power to actually rewire the human brain. That by changing our perception through embodied experience, we are creating new neural pathways that allow our brain to be more plastic, more resilient in the face of change. Now, economy thrives on this stuff, right? Impulse buys, marketing campaigns, advertising. New is definitely a human need, and people will pay for it. But I also like to think of this multisensory approach as the art and science of creating perception. You know, it's both a practical process that I use in my own creative work, as well as an emotional journey that always asks me to confront my own narratives, my own beliefs around the world in me and around me. Now, I share this with you as just a point of levity and a laugh break, but also to let you know that I've been in this business for a long time. Here is a book that I wrote when I was 9. It is called Whodunit. It's an award-winning detective novel set in a refrigerator with an eggplant detective you see here pictured on the right, who is our hero and investigating the murder of Sally Tomato, who fell from the top shelf. There are some sub-characters that you see there too, Lingo Lemon and Penelope Pineapple. Now, I'm not sharing this with you because I am a great illustrator, which you can see that I am not. But I share this with you because it's also something that I truly believe. I believe in the child's mind, and we have that in all of us. It's such a formative time for us as we originally learned about the world, judgment-free, filled with curiosity, wonder, possibility. For me, this refrigerator could become a scene for so many stories, for so much drama. Just by opening it and shutting it as a young child, was I able to see that and imagine it, bringing it to life in a totally new way. Now, that child's mind is our original way of being creative, because as kids, we don't intellectualize the world first, we feel it first. And I want to share a few examples of how I've brought this approach to life today in my own work as an adult, using a multisensory approach to topics that I believe lends a new point of entry, infusing them with new possibilities, with wonder, as a form of both my own creative practice and creative resilience, but also as playful critique in this world. Now, one contemporary interest of mine is how we consume technology, and also maybe how it consumes us. Early on, I approached this topic in a pretty simple, I think obvious way, exploring how technology and food might play with each other in new ways. Pictured here is the Lickestra, the world's first lickable ice cream orchestra. You see 4 pedestals, on top of which are placed 4 rapid prototyped ice cream cones, inside of which are embedded capacitive sensors. And when you lick, you trigger a unique musical tone by the mere act of consuming ice cream. This was created in collaboration with a wonderful artist named Carla Diana, with sound by Arun Dyer. I'll let this video do a little bit of the talking. Now, unfortunately, I can't see all your faces behind this screen, but often if I show this in public settings, I'm always met with sort of shock, awe, delight, and hidden giggles. That experience obviously says a lot more than just technology being used as an ingredient. For me, Lickestra plays with sensory experience, and it actually also gives people permission to experience risk safely, happily in public. And by bringing technology into a consumable like licking an ice cream, I also think that this experience becomes a medium for emotion. And this opened up an idea for me about exploring more specifically what are the meanings of technology and what are its roles as an ingredient in society. So what if we created a cookbook for the digital age? Well, I got to do just that about 2 years ago. This is a project called Eat Tech Kitchen, pictured here. It is an interactive installation collaborated with an incredible artist and friend of mine, Clazine van de Zandesloop, a Dutch artist based in Amsterdam. And this was first installed at the IDFA Doc Lab in Amsterdam in 2018 and has gone on to tour internationally and also become a digital experience presently. Eat Tech Kitchen is an interactive space in which guests can come. We serve as the two human/alien hosts and help them operate, building recipes with some of the ingredients that you see around here based on recipes that are produced by a futurist chef. The futurist chef actually lives inside of Google Home and sounds a little bit like this.
Hey Google, talk to the futurist chef.
Hi, futurist chef.
Greetings, human. This is Bot. I am a chef from the future. I'm so excited to meet you. You look super delicious. How do I look?
You look very streamlined.
You look very streamlined. Yeah, well, that's because I ate too many pixels for breakfast. They're really good for you, but only in moderation.
The way it works is that by asking Google to speak to the futurist chef, you open a very rudimentary chatbot and have a dialogue with it that is decision tree based. And based on your answers through voice interaction, we're able to construct a recipe based on that data and then send command to print to a physical recipe printer. That physical recipe then allows you to collect a variety of ingredients, both real and let's call them technological, that are within the pantry of the Eat Tech Kitchen and assemble them and consume them on site. Now, in this world, recipe maybe means something a little bit different than your grandmother's chocolate cake. This is one example of them called Like Food, which asks you to gather ingredients of hashtag food porn or hashtag laugh out loud, otherwise known as flavored lip gloss. Your cell phone, Like Food, also otherwise known as a bitter candy, and social media of your choice. Takes about 5 minutes to perform. This is great to do in pairs. It is required to do in public, and you'll see why. We first ask you to swipe the hashtag of your choice on your lips for good looks. Then you place the Like Food in your mouth. Obviously, that taste is going to give you quite a facial expression, the bitterness making you pucker. But you're then tasked to place your phone screen in front of your face in the left hand, and you turn on the phone camera and set it in selfie mode. Selfie yourself while sucking and chewing the Like Food and licking your good looks lips. And then choose the best resulting selfie, post it to social media with the hashtag filterfood. And there you see hidden count the likes and jump for each like. A bit of a hybrid between an exercise class and a cooking class, let's say. But the goal of these is the performance within public space. It is playing with the rules, deconstructing them, provoking what we are allowed to do and not do, both in real life and online. This is Alibaba unboxing being performed. You see here, this woman has created this delicious little pastry and then was asked to lick it, and while scrolling through Amazon and clicking on all of the things that she loves, saving them to a wish list. than reviewing them with her colleague there. Now, the absurdity of this project is evident, and the multisensory qualities in it by using things like food and drink provoke new thinking, but they also provoke new feeling about our human behaviors. And I'm really interested in feelings because they're sticky. I don't understand them a lot of the time. They make us all do wild things. They make us fall in love, pay attention to stuff, ignore other stuff, move across the world, buy, sell, trade, and at heart, they make us human. And throughout history, emotions have also been the subject of the future of our humanity. A few years back, I was rereading this incredible book from 1931, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, in which Aldous paints the picture of a future dystopia in which human beings are controlled through their feelings. And all the citizens are given a drug that prevents them from feeling anything except for when they engage with feeling machines that he designs, like this crazy smell organ that's a speculative invention of his, that pumps arpeggios of lavender, thyme, and pig dung on people to allow them to have sensation. Now, unbelievably, nobody had ever remade this, can you believe it? So I decided to recreate it, but add more human agency for today by designing it as an interactive object that works around this concept here of a wheel of feeling, the 10 basic human emotions, each station representing one basic human emotion, and each station being operated by a single person who, through the pumping of bicycle pumps, which you see here at the base, are able to shoot out smell, sound, and light translations of each of these 10 basic emotions. Now, the result is a full body experience in so much as that it asks us, in terms of interaction design, to use our bodies as the vehicle for the experience by pumping. But it also asks us to smell, to listen, to see, and to play together. The objects themselves, I think, are some of my favorite things that I've made to date. This was created in collaboration with Number 4 Studio in Brooklyn, which is a collage of a French horn and a trumpet, which actually allowed us to use the horns themselves as amplifiers just by using their resonant properties. And inside, how it works is that you see here that there's a bike pump connected underneath to a paint gun canister, inside of which is a pressure sensor. That pressure sensor reads the air that's being pumped into the paint gun canister while also being right next to a custom-made car air freshener that holds the scent of each station. Now, the data from the pressure sensor is sent to a custom Max MSP, which is connected to Ableton Live, and that in turn shoots out a sound and light show alongside the diffused smell to represent each emotion that's being diffused at that station. My creative audio partner, Ant Food Studios, made this radical case study video that I think does a better job than even I do right now. So take a peek.
The Dream Machine is a multiplayer olfactory organ that combines smell, sound, touch, and vision in a single immersive experience. It's f***ing dope. Ant Food collaborated with the magnetic Emilie Baltz. Smooth Technology, Number 4 Studios, Dave and Gabe, and Whodunit to create the Dream Machine. We composed a piece titled The Smell of Science and created interactive audio reactions for each of the 10 unique emotions. Like respect. Bow down to those motherfucking brass stabs. What about anger? Vocalize that beast within. And disgust. Ant Food developed a custom workflow and audio engine to pass sounds from multiple interfaces through Peter Frampton-style talk boxes attached to repurposed French horns. Check this shit out. The Dream Machine was a big hit at the Panorama Music Festival, Brooklyn's new lab and beyond, grabbing attendees by the motherfucking neck and transporting them into the Dream Machine.
Well, I'm happy to say that the Dream Machine lives on. You saw that video made from a music festival activation. And since then, it was acquired by the Liberty Science Center, which is an incredible center dedicated to exploring science through all sorts of lenses in New Jersey, just across the river from New York City. And there, children of all ages are able to interact with it and explore their feelings in new ways, giving them vocabulary outside of just language to experience everything from happiness, respect, disgust, hope, and more. And that brings me to this quote from philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, what's one of my favorites and inspires that you can probably see just a lot of this work, that the limits of our language are the limits of our world. And in our own creative processes, we're all in the business of storytelling. And I'm interested personally in how we can explore new modalities of communication, new ways of connection, both as mediums for storytelling, but also as ways of better understanding how we feel. You saw the Dream Machine, which approaches that through interactive design, I think on a spectacular level. And I also wanted to take this opportunity to share actually a very simple story. Alongside all of this work, I have always worked as a photographer and publish books every now and then. And one of these books that came out a few years ago is called The Love Food Book. It's published in French. The subtitle is Le Libertinage Gourmand. If you speak French, you know what that is. I'm not going to say it on the internet. But the Love Food Book asked 15 different chefs and mixologists to share their definitions of love through food and drink. And what this project did is it allowed us to not just give words, but also to give experience to, I think, one of the most ephemeral emotions on earth. One of my favorite recipes starts here. This recipe is from Chef Kobe Desramels, who at the time had a really wonderful restaurant called In de Wolf in Belgium. And the restaurant actually was the farm where Kobe grew up. And he told me this story. He brought these two pigeons out. And he said, this for me is love. I said, why? He said, well, I grew up on this farm. And I didn't have any friends when I was little. But I had these two pigeons, and they would come and they would visit me, and I would play with them, and I gave them names. And one day my mother came to me and she said, Kobe, we have to kill the pigeons. And I said, why? She said, because we have to eat. And for him, who has since then gone on to be one of the most awarded chefs in the world, his first definition of love was sacrifice. And he created this recipe in which he takes pigeon, stuffs it with hay, allows it to sit outside and tenderize, decompose, ferment for about 2 weeks. And then he creates a hay-infused butter and cooks this pigeon in that hay butter. And the result is this. It's a dish that I wish we could all taste together right now, because the feeling in your mouth is so bitter from the decomposition of the meat, which tenderizes the tough meat of pigeon, but also adds just a little bit of kind of rancid funk to it, alongside the sweet, enveloping deliciousness of this butter infused with the hay of the surrounding land. And you eat it and you have an immediate understanding of what this time period must have felt like for Kobe, of what this emotion feels like, this bitter, sweet taste of sacrifice. On a different continent outside of Chicago, I worked with Moto Restaurant, also unfortunately no longer open. But this was a wonderful chef who has since passed, Omar Okentu, who came to me and presented this, saying, this is my definition of love. And mind you, this image looks big, but the actual pieces of it are so tiny. Tiny little root vegetables, incredible little microgreens, and you have to sort of lean in to see and experience all of it. And he said, this is love for me. Because if you don't look close, you'll miss it. In France, I had the opportunity to work with Rob McCarty, a great mixologist at the time working at David Lynch's bar, the Silencio. And Rob is a fiery man, and he brought this to me and he said, this for me is love. He said it's called a bloody Yoshi. It was based around an experience of suffering. It is a classic Bloody Mary reimagined through the alcohols of sake infused with sesame. Still has that punch, a little bit of jalapeno. The sake takes us into a totally different world, kind of an exotic sense of suffering, an other, something that you are confronted with in a different place and in a different time. And for him, this was his experience of love, something that could be explosive, that felt outside of him, but kept you coming back for more. And to come back to today on that note, to our context, to the need for all of us to reimagine our daily lives and find new meaning as we face our own uncertainties, our own emotions, our own isolation, and so much more. I'd like to ask you to reflect on this. How do you think that you can play a meaningful role? And to think about the importance of your work in everyday life, in its ability to engage the senses in new and in delightful ways. And in doing so, what I hope that we deliver is more than anything, a new mindset for our world, a new mindset for our practices, new mindsets for our businesses that are based on joyful possibility. Because for me, there is joy in knowing that what something is may not be. Thank you so much for having me today. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, evening, morning, year, month, minute, day. Thank you.